Novelist Rick Riordan has admitted that race replacing Annabeth Chase in the live-action Percy Jackson Disney Plus series is, quote, massive benefit to broaden the cast in terms of representation. Speaking with Variety, Riordan addressed the casting of Lee Savage Jeffries to play the role of Annabeth Chase, the daughter of Athena, in the upcoming Disney Plus series Percy Jackson and the Olympians. He said, Lee impressed me from the moment I met her. She has a sort of steel that makes her a leader, but there's a bit of vulnerability to her. Sounds like any person that should be playing that character. I would assume there were a lot of actors or actresses that you could describe as that. Nevertheless, he went on and said, now again, does she look like Annabeth looks in the books? No. Was that important to me? No. If anything, it was a massive benefit to broaden the cast in terms of representation. Another admission from Rick Riordan that he doesn't really care about his source material. He's all about the DEI woke agenda, and he wanted to broaden the cast in, quote, terms of representation. Ironically, when you try and race replace a character, you actually limit other people that are being represented, such as white women that could have saw themselves being represented as Annabeth Chase. They have now been removed completely from this quote-unquote representation, if you even buy into that ideology that Rick Riordan is obviously has and is pushing. So I'm not really sure how you're broadening the cast by race replacing if indeed you are actually eliminating another portion of that representation audience that you could be appealing to. So it doesn't really make any sense from a logical standpoint, but nevertheless, that is what he had to say. Riordan, not known for his logic, as I've covered on this channel quite a bit, and we'll get into here. He previously justified the decision to race replace an assortment of characters, including Annabeth, in an interview with Entertainment Weekly back in September. He first explained some details about how he came up with the character of Percy Jackson and saying it was inspired by his son and all of that. But he went on and said, 20 years on, it's important that I looked at it again with fresh eyes and made sure that the story was speaking to all kids and that everyone could look at the series and see themselves. It's inclusive enough that everyone can be a hero. After all, that's why I wrote the book in the first place. My son, because of learning differences, was feeling like an outsider, and this was my way of saying it's okay. Difference is a strength. You're going to be just fine, and you belong in this world. So he used his son, clearly a white boy, as that example that anyone can aspire to, and there's plenty of examples to that. I mean, I find Luke Cage a very interesting character, but he doesn't look like me, so what's going on there? Why? How is he representing me if he doesn't look like me? Well, that's because I actually like a lot of his what he does, his choices that he makes, the things that he does, why he takes action. Those are the things that you can see in a character and relate to. It doesn't always have to be skin deep, which is clearly how Riordan is thinking. And we get this here. He previously lashed out his own fans and readers after they objected to the casting that strays from his own source material. He wrote in a blog post on his website, this is specifically for those who have a problem with the casting of Lee Jeffries as Annabeth Chase. It's a shame such posts need to be written, but they do. He says, first, let me be clear. I'm speaking here only for myself. These thoughts are mine alone. They do not necessarily reflect or represent the opinions of any part of Disney, the TV show, the production team, or the Jeffries family. And then he said the response to the casting of Lee has been overwhelmingly positive and joyous, as it should be, which begs the question as why you're even writing a blog post in the first place. If it was overwhelmingly positive, me thinks that you're lying. Nevertheless, he goes on and says, Lee brings so much energy and enthusiasm to this role, so much of Annabeth's strength. She will be a role model for new generations of girls who will see her in her the kind of hero they want to be. Next, he claimed individuals are bullying and harassing her. He didn't provide any evidence of that. I'm not really going to get into that here, but let's go on down here. He then basically admitted that he actually cast her because of Disney's racist quota policies that they have on their website. Reimagine Tomorrow. This is what he said. He says, I was quite clear a year ago when we announced our first open casting that we would be following Disney's company policy on non-discrimination. We were committed to diverse, inclusive casting. For every role, please submit unqualified performers without regard to disability, gender, race, and ethnicity, age, color, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other basis prohibited by law. We did that. The casting process was long, intense, massive, and exhaustive. But as you see here, you have the Walt Disney Company's racist policy here, where they said by 2022, 50% of regular and recurring characters across Disney General Entertainment scripted content will come from underrepresented groups. That is indeed a quota and is indeed racist, because you are discriminating against certain people based on what you define as an underrepresented group, which we know is based on sexuality and quote-unquote race. They have since removed that from the website and replaced it with the following statement. We are committed to inspiring a more inclusive world by reimagining the way we tell stories and who tells them. Our intention is to broaden access and diversity in our industry by adopting inclusion standards across Disney, general entertainment, and live-action studio productions by the end of 2022. Basically, they're admitting that they're adopting racist policies. to discriminate against white people, with the goal of advancing representation in front of and behind the camera in marketing and more. However, they link to their inclusion standards at ABC Entertainment, which state that 50% or more of regular and recurring written characters from underrepresented groups and 50% or more of regular and recurring characters come from underrepresented groups. So again, it's just, they just tried to fluff up the language, but if you dive deeper, it's still the same stuff. It's still racist. Nevertheless, Riordan continued saying, I have been clear as the author that I was looking for the best actors to inhabit and bring to life the personalities of these characters, and the physical appearance was secondary for me. We did that. I'm sorry, but physical appearance should be important to the characters. That's how they look. If you're looking for the best actors to inhabit the role, you would think that they would look like them. That has been my stance for a very long time, and it continues to be my stance. And I'm going to criticize people that disagree with that, such as Rick Riordan here. We took a year to do this process thoroughly and find the best of the best. This trio is the best. Lee Jeffries is Annabeth Chase. I'm just wondering why they didn't cast a black kid to play Percy Jackson. If it's all about that representation, why didn't you do that? Oh, it's probably because you wanted him to look like your kid, Rick. That's right. I guarantee you that's why Percy Jackson was not race replaced. He then decried his own readers and fans as racist. Some of you have apparently felt offended or exasperated when your objections are called out online as racist. But I am not racist, you say. It is not racist to want an actor who is accurate to the book's description of the character. Let's examine that statement. It is not racist. He's going to go off and basically lie to his own readers and say that it is indeed racist to want a character to look like how they're described. And he's going to basically say you're a racist if you want that. But it's just not true. But anyways, he goes on and says, you're upset, disappointed, frustrated, angry because a black actor has been cast to play a character who is described as white in the book. She doesn't look the way I always imagined. It has nothing to do with how you imagine them. It's how you describe them, which you admitted that you did describe her as white in the books. So you're contradicting yourself already here. Not really off to a good foot there, Rick Riordan. You either are not aware or have dismissed Lee's years of hard work, honing her craft, her talent, her tenacity, her focus, her screen prints. No, she just isn't fit for the role because she doesn't look like the character, so she's not fit. You should create a new character for her or find a role for her that she actually would look like that character. Like, it's not really hard to do that, so no, you're just creating a straw man here, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. He goes on, he says, you refuse to believe her selection could have been based on merit. It can't be based on merit because she doesn't look like the character. Without having seen her play the part, you have prejudged her, pre-plus judge. Oh my gosh, dude, this guy's just like making stuff up now. Because you're prejudging someone now, okay, just stop, Rick Riordan. You're such a liar. And decide she must have been hired simply to fill yes, because they have quotas. She was hired to fill a quota. You are now admitting it. To Entertainment Weekly, to Variety, you're admitting it, that you cast her to increase representation, which is specifically what Disney says in their quotas. So you lied. And you're now, you caught yourself. The truth always comes to light, and they always tell them themselves. Gotcha. But anyways, he says, and by the way, these criticisms have come from across the political spectrum, right and left. Indeed, they have. He then says, you have decided that it couldn't possibly mean what I have always said, that the true nature of the character lies in their personality. You feel I must have been coerced, brainwashed, bribed, threatened, whatever, or I, as a white male author, never would have chosen a black actor for the part of this canonically white girl. You were clearly manipulated by the Walt Disney Company and their critical race theory agenda and narrative that they have pushed on people. That's why you're writing this. So yes, you have definitely been coerced, even though you might not realize that you've been coerced. You have indeed been coerced. You refuse to believe me, the guy who wrote the books and created these characters. When I say these actors are perfect for the roles because of the talent they bring, the way they use their auditions to expand, improve, and electrify the lines they were given. Right, we say that because we can see with our own eyes that they do not look like the characters. So I'm gonna believe what I actually see rather than what you're trying to tell me to believe. Because the character doesn't look like the character. So she cannot be like the character. I don't care how great she is. If you don't look like the character, you cannot embody the character. He then goes on, once you see Lee as Annabeth, she will become exactly the way you imagine Annabeth. No, she will not be, because you described her as a specific way, and she cannot become that. Like, do you not understand that, Mr. Rick Riordan? You seemingly did, because you admitted earlier in this blog post that you had described her a certain way. Assuming you give her that chance, but you refuse to credit that this may be true. I think a lot of people aren't going to give you that chance. People are fed up with Disney Plus's absolutely disgusting behavior, their grooming of children, their pushing of critical race theory, their constant division that they're pushing, and their absolute hatred of Americans. So I think you're going to be up in an uphill battle. I would not be surprised if this does Miss Marvel numbers or less. It's not going to be a top performer. We'll even see if it gets canceled like Willow. I would not be surprised if that happens. He then reiterated that he was calling his own readers and fans racist for wanting characters to look the way they're described in the books. He says, "You are judging her appropriateness for this role solely and exclusively on how she looks. She is a black girl playing someone who is described in the books as white." Friends, that is racism. No, it is not. It is not racist to want a character to look the way they are described in the books. I think it's racist for you to change the way that the character is depicted in the books for a live action, and you're doing it solely for an agenda that is based off of quote unquote a racist quota by the Walt Disney Company and the racist critical race theory. So you, sir, are the one who is engaging in racism. But this is just classic projection. They're always accusing people of what they are actually guilty of. So that's the latest on Rick Riordan, Percy Jackson, and the Olympians. I think the show is going to be dead on arrival. It looks like an absolute garbage DEI junk fest that the Walt Disney Company has created and convinced Rick Riordan to go along with. And it looks like he's actually bought into the whole narrative, hook, line, and sinker. So, again, this show is DOA, but let me know what you think about Rick Riordan's comments here about Percy Jackson and the Olympians and the race replacing of Annabeth Chase and the other characters, because there's a lot of them in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Subscribe for more.